right, welcome in. We are here talking with Spencer Breidenbach. He is the manager of strategic partnerships at BrightFire. BrightFire is a done-for-you digital marketing group for insurance agents. They build websites, they help with your SEO, they help with a ton of things. So Spencer, I am so glad you're here. Today we are talking about website conversion optimization. Let's dive into all the different things that maybe we need to think about as we think about website optimization or conversion optimization specifically, right? How do we get that prospect that comes to your website to take the actions that you want them to take down the right funnel to ultimately get them to successfully get a quote from you, so that you can turn around and actually win that quote. So I thought I'd turn it over to you to help maybe frame the issue of why this stuff's so important.
Absolutely, Ray, and thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. So yeah, no, backing up a step, a lot of agencies, then they reach out a lot, especially post-COVID and all the changes that brought about with consumers. A lot are really aware now of SEO and, hey, I want to do what I need to rank in the top. I want to show up in my metropolitan area, my town. I want to be showing up on the first page for the policy types I sell. Just as important for us too, as digital marketers, all of these analytics around, hey, what's our average search position, what traffic's generated. But we know for you as an insurance agent, you're not selling traffic, you're not making money from a website visit. You need somebody to actually follow through and reach out to become a prospect, get that quote, and then actually become a policy holder with you. Definitely a lot of equal efforts should be focused on conversion and doing everything you can to make it effortless for that person to decide, yeah, Acme Insurance Agency, they look very professional. I'm having a good experience. There's no friction getting where I need to on their website. Boom, hey, let me get in touch with them. They seem like somebody I want to invest the time going through a quote with. Outside of the realm of just insurance, there are studies from 2023 that globally, the average website conversion rate now is a little higher than 3.5%. And then we've also seen from Accenture things indicating 75% of clients who attempted to purchase insurance online reported problems in that process. So any issues or stumbling blocks, and this will be a recurring theme through this, we really show don't tell. People aren't going to pay attention to as much as what you say about yourself on the website or saying, yeah, we have great service. That website's a representation of you and the emotional experience of being on the website and how easy or difficult things are for them. That's really going to color their perception of the agency itself. Hey, this website experience was easy. Hey, this agency's easy to work with, and come in with that expectation early on. And then we've also seen studies, 80% of shoppers will leave your website if they have a bad search experience. They find you on that first page of search results. Hey, SEO's doing its work for you. All's going well. Then they land on that website. If they're struggling to understand where they need to go, what's my next step here, they're just going to bail on that experience.
Yeah, and I totally get that. And I think of breaking down what we're thinking of as, hey, conversion optimization to get them from like landing to your website to getting a quote. But like you have to break that down into these little steps. I call them all these like little Hail Marys that need to happen to get them to that last place, right? Yeah, getting to your page, getting to the call to action, getting to understanding who you are, to the form. Hey, now I do get them to that decision of, yeah, I do want a quote. And maybe they came to that decision on your site, but probably before, right? But they're making a decision on you. Then what's the form experience? So you break those down, and everything needs to come together in the right way. Like you think about, and I think we'll get into this, but like all the different, like those micro conversions, if one of those messes up, like everything past it, all those stats mess up, right? So that, I think you said 3.5-4% conversion overall. That goes from, it starts at 100% of the people hopefully get to your webpage, and then 50% care about this, and 20% of those care about this, and it all ripples down to like when they click that submit button, it's 3%, right? It just keeps getting these haircuts. So it's really interesting. What are recommendations maybe you have on website design that can help us improve conversion rates. So what are the things that I just mentioned a few of them, but what are some of the things that we really need to think about?
I agree. Let's break it down into broader areas because you're right. It's almost like a chain. If any one of those links is
Yeah.
weak, the whole thing's going to fail. They're not going to progress past that point. And love your point about as you get farther down that, more and more people are going to winnow away on it. Agents or salespeople, I know they're used to thinking in terms of, hey, here's my pipeline, here's my lead funnel, and the progression as things narrow down. Yeah, you're dead on, Ray. It's exact same idea with website visitors, and each stage of that journey is going to narrow that audience that makes it through to the end. Hey, I've reached out for a quote. So break it down into different broad areas. Definitely like the big first consideration is, hey, what's the technical performance of my website? So this sounds like maybe blatantly obvious, but like website load speed is a huge thing. For better or worse, like attention spans are lower than ever. We're really busy people are really quick to, hey, this website isn't loading right away. This seems like it's broken. Forget this. Like, I'm going to move on to the next thing. This isn't the only website or agency I found in the search results that's a fit for what I need. Let me just move on to the next one. So it is really critical that you have a website that loads quickly and gives a good first
Yeah.
impression right off the bat of, okay, this is easy for me. This works like on a fundamental level. This is doing what it should be. And then the next is just, again, people are very quick to move along, and Google also places a lot of emphasis on your headings and headlines and title tags. So just having clear, really clear, relevant old headings and make it clear, hey, there's an overwhelming amount of information. They're getting just the drip that they need of, hey, I feel like this is the right fit for me, but I'm not overwhelmed by this wall of text or a billion different options all at once. Having a clear navigation and really thinking through the hierarchy of, hey, what if somebody's coming in to do X policy, what do they want to see, what are they going to want to look for to validate, yeah, it's worth my time and sharing of my personal information to reach out to this agency. And then definitely in 2024, really critical. Google even looks at the mobile version of your website as the default as opposed to the desktop
Hmm.
version. More than half of searches now and website browsing are going to be on a mobile device. So it's really critical if you're building a new website or thinking about just, hey, what can I do to improve my existing one easily? You really want to think about that mobile experience because that's going to be where the majority of your prospects are, how they're experiencing the website in your agency now.
Yeah, there's so many websites that I come across that still have this very like 2010 feel, even if it was like recently designed. And you can tell there's the whole idea of mobile first design, like website junkies like you and I, we kind of get that, but like you need to, it requires really condensing a lot of your information and how you think about how things are displayed on mobile first, right? Think of that first, and then okay, then how does it look on desktop?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, especially the more you shrink that real estate, the easier
Yeah.
it is for what seems like a good amount of information in white space. When you look at it on that smaller display, that's just way
Yeah.
too much. And then the next thing after some of those technical performance and literal navigational hierarchy, what you want to really look at is, okay, the site's loaded for them. They didn't lose patience with it. What are they going to see first? We call it above the fold is what they're going to see when that site first loads on their display without clicking to another page or having to scroll. So that's really your first micro conversion right there of, hey, do I see anything that's a turn off, or hey, this isn't a good fit for me? Am I getting enough where I want to explore, scroll down and not just click away right away? So you really want to make a strong first impression. It's a really good chance to make it clear to that visitor, hey, this is answering what I was searching for. I'm your target audience. You like working with people like me with my needs, and also try to humanize the agency. Of course, there's tons of insure techs out there now. And of course, people can go into 1-800 numbers or buy stuff directly. The reason they're on your site in the first place, they value, hey, I want a real people in my local area who are going to be invested in me and give me that kind of customer experience. So definitely you really want to play into that. They want to see you and understand, okay, cool, these are real people just like me.
Yeah.
definitely you want to, again, I think we touched on this a little earlier, but understand, think about what types of policy do I sell the most? What are those families' lives like? What are they looking for? What are, when I'm with my commercial policies, like what are those business owners like? What other concerns do they have? What is meaningful to them? Think about what do they want to know, what to feel comfortable. And hey, I'm a contractor, I'm super busy. Last thing I want to deal with is getting a new insurance
Right.
quote. What speaks to, hey, we're going to make this easy for you. We work with contractors all the time. We know what you've got going on and we can help you with it. And then also thinking about too, everybody's aware, hey, have a phone number on there, have a quote form field that they can follow up with. But it's really good to think about too. People are used to and like live chat options now. People love, hey, cool, they have a Calendly link or Acuity instead of like playing phone tag with them a billion times. Cool, I know I can just pre-schedule this exact time. Awesome, the agency's making my life easy. I know exactly who I'm going to be talking to. And then definitely just really meeting them where they're at and giving them different options to how they're comfortable engaging with a business is really going to help.
Yeah, I love that. Meeting them where they're at, letting them engage with you the way that they want to engage with you. And that feels a little bit, let's say, antithesis, right? You've got a certain funnel that you're trying to get them down, but you also want to give them options on how they make it to that next step, right?
Oh
Be that
yeah.
like, hey, I want to go straight book a demo. I want to go just, hey, I just want to do this all online. I don't want to talk to any, or I don't want to show up to your office, things like that, right? So trying to get them comfortable with moving forward at where they want to be, but also being mindful, like, I do want to get them down
Yeah.
uh, to the end goal here. I think that's definitely critical. What do you think about things like credibility and social proof? How do you guys like to think about it, or how should agencies think about how to display that?
Yeah. No, that's a great point, Ray. That goes back to that same idea of what are they looking for? How can we humanize it? Having real names and faces of the staff on there both builds that emotional connection and validates these are real human beings. They're proud of this business that they own and operate. And then it's also the idea of going back to show, don't tell. A lot of places I've seen, typically websites, you'll have at least, hey, here's one or two testimonials with, hey, this is from Bill S. So that's definitely better than nothing. But I know when I'm researching, like, hey, what's a good landscaper out there in my local area? I'm always okay that they just, there's no link back to, yes, this is where this review was sourced from. It's just, okay, did they just make this up? It's just plain text. So really ideally that's a good first stage. If you don't have any testimonials, I'll at least do that. Ideally what you'd want to do is go back and, hey, this is a verified Google review that they left for me. There's widgets out there to display those. You can manually pull in, hey, here's the Google icon, just give some kind of indication, hey, this is a verified third party review that's out there from a real
Yeah.
person. You don't have to take our word for it. Like Google didn't delete this as an artificial review. Like go check it out. It's real. Definitely a good idea to leave links to, hey, you can check out or Google My Business profile reviews here. You can leave a review for us here. So that's definitely something folks are really looking for and trained to do is, hey, I've got a billion different options on this first page of search results. Who gets consistent, frequent reviews? Who seems like they have a strong reputation? It's going to be worth my time having these conversations. And then another really key thing, if you're doing business over a larger geographic scope, if somebody's not familiar with your agency, you can really lean on your carrier relationships. That's going to both validate, hey, I'm not familiar with Acme Insurance Agency, never heard of them before, but wow, here's all of these different big regional, national carriers that trust them and write
Yeah.
with them. They must be legitimate if all of these companies do business with them. And it's also furthering, hey, I'm an independent agent. You're reaching out because you want me to do the legwork of shopping it for you. Cool. Look at all these different options I've got for you.
Yeah, get that borrowed or extended credibility from those other carriers that are still like big enough names, right? But multiple of them. So, like, you can trust us because we write good policies with good carriers, and we have more than one of them, which is a big differentiator there. What do we think about, like, ultimately the call to action, right? What do we actually want them to
Yeah.
do? I think of there's get a quote is probably the most common one, and there's different ways to approach that, right? There could be just one general get a quote. When I think of like forms, there could be something that's really general as get a quote, and you go through this whole experience of, do you want this, or do you want this, or do you want these? And you can ask, like, they can get out of hand sometimes, right? Other ones are more simple, and it's a lower lift, something like a complimentary free policy review, right? Where it's like, hey, we're not actually asking you. It feels like it's a slightly lower bar, but like at the end of the day, you're an insurance agent. You're gonna run that. You're gonna find some gap and run up a quote and try to win that business, obviously. But it does feel like a slightly less bit of commitment to do something like that, but it opens up the dialogue. Other thoughts that you have around good CTAs and how those are?
So it definitely is a spectrum, and it really goes back to, you want to think about, okay, what do I want to prioritize? Because you're right, you can get, here's this short field that, hey, it's just contact info and policy type. Yeah, you're not going to get anything actionable to write a quote out of that, but that's definitely going to maximize how many folks reach out. If we've got years and years of data and looking at what's worked and what's impacted conversion rates for thousands of websites we built and managed for folks. And as silly as it sounds, we see, oh, you're going from 4 fields to 5. That has a statistically meaningful impact on your conversion rates. A lot of agencies we talk to are, I don't care if it's not a full quote. I want to capture that. I don't want somebody leaving without me being able to follow up with them. Well, of course, that's not the case for everyone. If you've got, hey, I get a ton of personal auto, but in my area, there's a lot of non-standard, that's a waste of my time. Hey, like, here, what are good knockout questions? Are there a couple things I can identify right off the bat to figure out, like, this isn't a right fit for me, I can't place this anywhere? Others will also go into multi-stage forms, like to your point, Ray. Okay, on the first step, cool, I've identified what they want to talk about. I've at least got their contact info if they don't fill out anything else. And then based on what they tell you on that next step, you can get a different experience. So a lot of folks that we work with that are multi-line or full service agencies, they'll have really different ways they want to handle things. Like, hey, this person says they want to talk commercial policies. Cool, we definitely want to talk with them on that second step. Let's show, hey, here's our dedicated commercial lines producer. Let's, after that second step, show that person's Calendly link and try to get it even more engagement. Or, hey, cool, we have it. Now let's show more form fields so we can get more of what we would need for a quote. Or we've talked to a lot of times, clients are like, hey, I love term life. Don't want to turn that money away. It's an easy cross-sale opportunity, but it's just not the commission versus my time. It's not worth it to go hunting those folks down. So a lot will have, hey, this person selected, they want to talk life insurance. Cool. Now it's going to show as a second stage, hey, awesome, thanks for reaching out. We'll follow up with you. But hey, in the meantime, doesn't it sound easier to get an instant quote through this link or modal? Or do you want to be able to just apply and bind a term life policy right away? So it's really just thinking about, hey, what's meaningful to your agency is definitely like a balance of trade-offs. And hey, to optimize your conversion rate, you're going to wind up with less actionable info for a quote and vice versa. So it's really just thinking through what do you want to prioritize and what's going to be the right fit for you.
Yeah, there's always that balance between enough information and to be actionable for you versus I just want someone to fill out the contact form and I'll reach out and we'll figure out the rest. So there's always a balance, I think, between what do you want to ask and how much do you want to like qualify on the form. And so I think we know that generally speaking, the longer your form, the more fields you're asking. Obviously, this depends on like the level of commitment that's already there, but the more forms you ask, the lower your conversion rate's going to be. Each additional form, like an extra point for someone to be like, this is enough. And I know there's experiences where there, like you had mentioned, there's multiple pages, right? There's things you could do like progress bars, right? So they know I'm 30% through this process and there's clearly going to be more pages. There's other times where it's like a black box. You're like, oh, it looks like they're only asking for my name and email to get a quote. Great. It's obviously not going to be enough information. You need page 2, page 3. But if you don't have a progress bar, and sometimes the progress bar is hard because you don't know, do they have 1 vehicle or 2 or 4 and how many times so there's all these like little nuances of that. And I think that's maybe a trade-off that an agent needs to decide, or an agency needs to decide. What do they want? Do they want it to be more of a qualifying thing? We'll take anyone that comes in the door. But you can definitely think about like how that experience impacts the ultimate conversion. And then, yeah, I think we also need to think about what happens after the quote submission, right? And that depends a little bit on what you actually collected. But there's a stat, my friend Nick Berry, he looked through like 100 agency websites, random agency websites, and he found that he submitted quotes on all of them. Probably frustrated the agents, but whatever. He said only 4 out of 5 of them had any sort of follow-up notification. So there's a lot of like behind the scenes work that needs to be done. Like, what are your operational processes when a quote comes in through your website? Are you following up with them in a timely manner? How are you following up with them? What are you doing as the next steps? How are they getting routed? All that stuff. Probably out of scope for what we want to talk about today, but things to consider, right? That like them hitting submit on the quote form is not the end of that's the end of the website part, but like you still need to get them to finish getting all the information that you need, run the quotes, have a meeting with them, or however you want it, whatever your process is for that, and get them to ultimately like agree and actually write the policy. It's important, like we talked about earlier, the micro conversions, like the website part of the conversion is a big chunk of it, but it's not the end of the road, right? There's still a lot to do for an agency. Yeah. Any last things that you want to add, Spencer, before we wrap up?
I think just what you had mentioned is a great point to think about that macro level. Just like at the beginning, I was mentioned, hey, people tend to be aware of SEO and fixate on that, but think about your overall process. That was a great point, Ray, of, hey, they submitted this, but that's not the end. You still need that last little gap. How am I going to get them over into my normal sales process and how I want to handle leads for this type of policy? So really just with your website design, all the things we've talked about today, really just want to back up a step and think about what are my overall priorities for my agency? What am I trying to write more of? What sort of processes work well for us internally and just don't blow up all of my staff's time? And then use that like high level to inform like those steps along the way. Okay, what sort of form do I want to go with here? What options do I want for people to reach out? Just think of that high level view and then apply it to those different smaller micro conversions.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Spencer, for joining me today. Again, this is Spencer Breidenbach from BrightFire. They are a done-for-you provider of marketing solutions for insurance agents, websites, SEO, social, all sorts of stuff. So check them out. And Spencer, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a pleasure.